going back to Gentlemen Broncos, where people loved that movie who were at the Paramount, and outside of that, people hated it. So for him to be able to come to grips with the fact that, okay, outside of here, there is another world, and there are people who did not buy like tickets to come to an expensive film festival and spend days here watching it, and are kind of convincing themselves that they have to love everything that they see. And I have to like just be honest with myself and say that yeah, maybe my movie was not as good as I thought it came out to be. And I definitely have to ignore all the good things that people say about it in order to be a better filmmaker and realize the criticism that people are giving me are probably for my own good.
It really was. The thing is that blog's really great. It's incredibly soul searching. And I was just impressed by his whole handling of it, and he scored a lot of points for me that way. I mean, say what you will about his career, but that he's a mensch. So yeah. But then what was the other film you brought up? There was one other one.
Spit on Your Grave, Carlisle.
I Spit on Your Grave. Yeah, there was. I saw this and I went to it because it was I knew it was going to be a big remake that everybody wanted to talk about, and it was one of those that I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this because people are going to want to know about it, and I can see it here, and it's not going to play here in Austin. It's not opening here. The nearest place it's opening is in Dallas. And I certainly am not going to drive 3 hours to go review that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be on Netflix in a couple of months anyway. So
yeah, well, yeah. And the thing is they're releasing it unrated. Like they sent it through the MPAA like 5 times, and the MPAA said no, fuck no, and so they went and said, fuck it, we're going to release it unrated. It's really good. Like it's really, really good. And it played really well. It's not sleazy like the original was. Like it's not about it's not sexploitation. It's not, hey, we're going to let you kind of enjoy the rape even though you're not supposed to, and enjoy some of the gross things about this, and then we'll go and get the revenge. There's nothing at all like. I mean, it is a brutal, hard to watch film that unlike a number of the other films at Fantastic Fest this year, the genre films that are just out there that include rape. This one has a really cathartic third act that it's really well thought out. It's really well done, and there's nothing about the film that is ever sleazy. My favorite part about the film is that they established from the get-go that the girl who the character's name is Jennifer Hill. I'm blanking on the actress's name. They establish her as smart from the get-go. Like she's a smart character. She never does anything stupid that gets her into trouble. She just ends up in a bad situation, and she does everything that you think she should do to get out of it. And you when you're sitting there going, no, tell him this, she does that, and it's like, oh. And then something you didn't think about crops up. I mean, the film's really smart about how it's set up. And when everything happens to her, it just breaks your heart and it destroys you. And then you cannot wait to watch the third act when she sets out to just destroy these guys who did this to her. And it is incredibly well done. I mean, you have to know what you're getting into with I Spit on Your Grave. You're watching an unrated rape revenge film.
Yes.
But as far as an unrated rape revenge film goes, it's pretty badass.
As far as rape goes, it's pretty cool. No. I know what you're saying.
There's nothing cool about it, and there's nothing like, the best thing that can be said about it is they shoot it tastefully. It's never sexy. The camera always moves away from the actual sex aspect and focuses on her expression or what the guys around are doing, and you're there for that experience, but you're never watching guys just go at a girl. And it's nothing at all like that.
Yeah,
By the time you see her fully naked at the end of the whole thing, it's not sexy. It's heartbreaking, and you're just like, "Oh, motherfucker! Somebody needs to kill these motherfuckers now."
Well, hey, if a chick is naked in front of me, I'm gonna find a way to make it sexy. So
no, you really
no, I know, and I wanted to go see it. I really did, but I just could not bring myself to do it. I've been broken down, Carla, and I tell you that day I had seen a film that I thought just there was some flaws in it, so I don't think it was as great as everyone thought it was, but it really was one of the most creative things I'd seen at the festival, and I bet you know what I'm talking about.
Sound of Noise?
Yep. Really,
Sound of Noise.
Yeah, I really admire that movie, man. I enjoyed it a lot, and I had walked out of that film feeling really good, and I saw what I had.
Tell everybody what Sound of Noise is.
It's pretty much an assault on a city with music. And,
musical terrorists.
Musical
hipster terrorists.
Yeah. I want to. They were so creative. I hesitate to even call them terrorists. That's why I said there's an assault on the city, because what they do is they just don't like the music that people are listening to, and these are people who can take ordinary objects, household appliances, whatever is within reach. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and they make music with it. It's based off of a short film. This group of people do. You probably know more about the history than I do, Carl. I'm just spouting out what I see, because the short film was about a group of people who wait for an old couple to leave their home, and then they go in with no explanation and just start using the kitchen appliances, the furniture, the rug, the bathroom stuff, and making music with it. And they're trying to get out before the people come back, and they don't really succeed at that. I won't ruin the end of the movie for you, or the short film, but they went ahead and
made... The short film is online. You can find it. It's called Music for One Apartment and Six Drummers.
That's it, yeah.
And all the actors in the short film, which the short film was made in 2001, all of the actors in that short film are in the feature film as the drum team for this film that we watched, The Sound of Noise.
And what was it? Was it a German film?
It is Swedish.
Swedish. Okay, so it's a Swedish film. Some of these people you can tell aged, and some of them you can't. There's one girl in the group, and you can tell that she's really aged over the last 8 years or 9 years or so. But yeah, all the people they return for the movie, and they managed to take that concept and expand it for a feature film. Which when you see the short, you're like, well, how can they make this into a movie? But not only do they
by stepping it up from an apartment to
a city,
increasingly more dangerous, insane places to perform music.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're making it sound like, we say terrorists and assault on the city, dangerous, and I mean it's not. It's really a lighthearted film, and it's mostly centering around these people just using bigger and bigger and bigger set pieces and objects to make music with. The climax involves them using the whole city to compose a piece of music, and like I said, it was a very imaginative film, and it made me feel really good when I walked out of it. Very lighthearted film that, out of all the violent, brutal shit that I saw, that was a relief, and I really enjoyed it. And that day, it made me feel so good that I was like, you know what, the sun is shining. I'm feeling really happy after seeing that movie. I better take my ass home before something spoils that. And I drove as fast as I could away from the Alamo Drafthouse that day. But it's a fun festival, man. It's really good. I mean, and even for the violent films that we're talking about, I saw some really good films within those. I know we spent a whole lot of time talking about the festival, and I knew we would, maybe we should pick it up again some other time in another podcast. But I saw some really good films despite them being violent, and even when they weren't that good, they were interesting. Like I saw Red, White, and Blue. Didn't really think it was that good. Thought it was actually.
I love that movie. It's hard to watch, but I love it.
Well, I love Noah. What's his name? Noah Tyler. Is that the?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a movie that was shot in Austin, and it has it has a British actor who plays sort of a redneck in the movie. And what was the girl's name? She was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Amanda Higgins or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah,
but I think her name is now Rumley.
Okay,
if I remember correctly. I think she married the director.
Okay, well, it's a movie. Like I said, I thought the acting was terrible for some actors in it. Not everybody. I thought that Noah Tyler was excellent in the movie. I loved him in the film. I thought the lead girl,
Amanda Fuller is the girl.
Amanda Fuller. Okay, Amanda Fuller. I thought she was really good in the film too, and I thought the casting of her was great. She looks like a real girl who would behave like this girl does. But it was almost like they mentioned too many places in Austin, and some of the people they had were horrible. Like the movie centers on a girl who is probably, she's a nymphomaniac. She's sleeping with all kind of people, and somehow she at this newest job that she has, she connects with this guy who looks pretty much like a drifter, and this guy harbors some pretty dark secrets. And so when this girl starts to be treated,
well, they're not. It's not at the job. They both have.
Let me say, I missed about 10 minutes of this movie. I missed all the parts where she was going around having sex with everybody and how they met. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, they both rent a room in the same house.
Okay, so okay, so they meet at the same house, but they make a connection, and this guy, he's one of the few people that doesn't have sex with this girl. He has genuine conversation with her. He's protective of her almost in a fatherly way, and and somehow you can tell that if they had a little more time together, that this might be some sort of romance, some like the romance that this girl was craving but never had. But when she gets put in danger, this guy, well, those dark secrets that we're talking about start to come out, and one of the things that endangers this girl is an old boyfriend, or at least an ex-lover that she had for a night, at least from a while back. This wannabe rock guy, and I forgot the guy who played the actor is who plays this guy, but I thought that guy was
Mark
horrible.
Sender.
Yeah, I thought he was terrible up until a certain point in the movie where he was actually getting better. But what I liked about that movie is the movie spends a whole lot of time with these people, just being people. I mean, they got problems, but nothing. It plays out like a drama, and then near the end, it turns horrible. I mean, everything just turns so horrific that you almost have to turn your head away. And
I hated the first half of the film. I was watching it. It felt too hipsterish. It felt too.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, it has a very weird editing style that doesn't pay off until the second half of the film. When the film has its big reveal and you find out what's going on, the film becomes what would normally be construed as torture porn, except the film is so smart and the way it's edited, it cuts everything, every bit of of the torture.
Well, you know what the movie did for me is that all that part, I hated all those parts that were like a hipster film too. All those parts where it was just like you were watching sort of them spout off every little bit of Austin that they could, and it's like, man, if you're in Austin, you think that's cool, but it gets annoying. And like I said, I thought the acting was terrible, but what they did was they made you spend so much time with those people as real people, so that when they were actually when the really bad parts came along, it made it just that much worse for how you felt about those people. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it made it worse that the movie was bad. It just made you where a movie where we don't spend
identified with them, even though you're not supposed to like any of the characters because they're all shits. They're all just wretched people. You identify with their humanity and you feel bad for all of them.
Even for the worst person, it's really bad to see some bad things happen to, and it humanized them. Where we see movies where people get killed and we don't know them as people, this really made the violence feel real, and that was and you realize, like, hey, violence, if you're a person, if you're a normal human being, no amount of violence at all is cool, and if you have a human side to you, you don't like to watch it, and that's how it was for me, and I got to give the movie points for that. I really enjoyed that part about it.
Well, and then everything that's hard to watch, everything that destroys you, isn't violent. It's dialogue or ideas. There's one line of dialogue in the film that when I saw it in a row full of, hardened, jaded critics, and everybody at once covered their mouth and went, "Oh, fuck." The scene when he's talking to the little girl.
Oh,
it was yeah.
And that's kind of where it like got me. I didn't really need to see that, but again,
well, you didn't see anything. That's the brilliance of that sequence, is they don't show anything that you would normally see in another film and would constitute torture porn. It's about putting you emotionally through the ringer, not forcing you to see how much you can look at. And that's what works about the film.
But this is coming after me having seen a lot of just violence towards women, and now I was a little girl, and I was just like, man, after seeing all of that this week, this is just not that's the last straw right there. I mean, the ending is so brutal. Film. Really? Yeah, I mean, there's some brilliance to it, but and it's funny you should mention the editing style, because there were so many different parts in this movie where this guy repeats a certain editing style, which is it's a series of jump cuts within a short amount of time, and it's the same shot.
The best way to describe it is there's one shot in particular that frustrated me early on, in which a guy's sitting in a hotel room and nothing's been happening, and then the phone rings and you're like, oh, hey, something's happening, and then it cuts and he's already answered the phone, had the conversation, put the phone down. And you don't see any of it, and that happens a lot. But that's the editing style that plays. He repeats that over and over again. So when it happens during sequences of extreme violence, he cuts around the violence, and you're already into that pattern. And so you feel like you know the violence just happened and like you just went through it, but they didn't actually show you violence. And I thought that's why I think the film's
Really?
brilliant.
Because see,
Oh
for
yeah.
me, it was like this guy has an editing style and thinks that it's clever, but doesn't know how to stop. It might be
His,
it's good
his
one
previous
time.
film is nothing like that. His previous film is much more of a narrative. He doesn't do anything like that at all. Like this is a deliberate choice that Simon Rumley made in how to edit this film in order to make the third act work the way it does. And that's what made me forgive everything that I hated about the first half of it. And because this was a film that if I walked out of movies, I would have walked out of.
Yeah.
I would have walked out before the twist. And once the twist happened, I was like, oh my fuck. And then it just becomes a slow motion train wreck where you're watching these things happen where you're like, oh my God, I don't know I know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be really, really bad when it does. And you're
You know a
stuck
movie's bad for you when it makes you say, "Oh my fuck."
Yeah.
I've never heard that. It's as long as I've lived, and it's just three simple words, but I've never heard those combination of words before. I've never heard that combination of words before. Oh my
That
fuck.
came out when I saw Red, White, and Blue. And I don't know if I'll ever watch the movie again. I think it's a brilliant film, but I don't know if I want to go through that again. But you know what? I would definitely recommend anyone who has a strong emotional constitution and likes experimental, brilliant filmmaking to definitely check this out. I think it's the first post-torture porn film that really takes everything that people hated about torture porn and ramps up the emotional level while scaling back on the violence. And I think it's incredible.
See, I wouldn't even categorize it as torture porn because it's a drama. It's a movie that presents itself as a drama, so that the violence at the end of it is just that much more heartfelt. And
but the things that happen in it happen in are the types of things that happen in torture porn films. I agree with you. It's a drama. I think it's a genre drama, but it is not a film that's about the violence.
There's just not a whole. That's what I'm saying. It's just not a. There's hardly any violence in the film until the end, and that's what hits hard for the people who watch. Is that you've watched this for so long. It's hard emotionally to watch, but there's hardly any violence in it. In fact, there's little bits of violence in there that they just don't show, and even then, it's not that extreme. By the time you get to the end, you think that you've watched a movie that's coming to its conclusion with no violence at all. It's going to be just some really hard emotional impact, but no, it's right up there with some of the worst horror movies that I've seen as far as the violence goes. And I mean it is disturbing because of the way they approach it. I have to admire the movie for that because it really did make me think afterwards. For all the faults that I have, I can't really bring myself to hate the film because it's just there's too many things that happened with that film that made me think long after I walked out the theater, and some of those things I wish I wasn't fucking thinking anymore, but it stuck with me. So,
hey, to talk about, mention one more thing before we move on. Did you get a chance to see Golden Slumber?
No, I did not.
I love Golden Slumber. This is by Yoshihiro Nakamura, who did Fish Story, which is the film, of course, I lost my fucking mind for last year. It's really good. That was that happy movie that everybody saw, like Sound of Noise, that just helped wash away all the ickiness of everything else. You would have really liked it.
What was it, Golden Slumber, you say?
Golden Slumber. Yeah, it's essentially what's interesting about it is it's essentially your kind of conspiracy thriller, techno thriller kind of movie where you have a character who is a normal, average, everyday guy who gets caught up in a widespread conspiracy, but instead of being the average Joe who finds out what's going on and then takes the fight to the guys who have swept him up into it, it's almost Copper-esque. It's a film about this really nice, sweet, unassuming guy who everybody just likes because he's a sweet guy, and he ends up getting through all this craziness because everyone around him likes him and helps him through. And this weird, group of people just come out of the woodwork to help this guy out just because he's helped them in the past or because he's such a sweet, good-hearted guy. And the film revolves around the song Golden Slumber by the Beatles. And the song comes up over and over again. And it's just it's a really sweet, funny, lovable thriller, and it's really unique. Something that if you liked Fish Story, you'll also like this. It's a really good film.
Nice, nice. I'll look for it then. Yeah, I didn't get to see as many. This is the only bad thing about Fantastic Fest is that it goes on through the week. I mean, same thing with any kind of festival that comes to town. There's just so many movies that I would love to see, and at some point during the day, I just have to say I can't do anymore because I gotta do some work.
Well, yeah,
I gotta do.
the one person I saw all over the place at the festival was co-host.
Oh yeah, no, he's all over it. He loves that festival, and I I'm saving some of the movies that I saw to talk about with him because, like I said, I saw a lot of things, but some of these things I saw with him, and I know he's dying to talk about because him and I were eager to go see some things, and some of these things we enjoyed because we were talking about these movies before the festival came. We're like, hey man, that's one we got to see. That's what we got to see. Some we were disappointed by, and some we loved a lot. So there's more Fantastic Fest discussions to be done, and I could talk about that festival all night because it's just
Oh, yeah.
like I said, I really
Well,
love the
I saw
festival.
40 films this year. So
Jesus
yeah, we
Christ,
just talked about what, six?
yeah, and there is no fucking way I could ever see 40 films, man. The site would fucking disappear if I did, if I tried to see
Well,
40 films.
that's why every year I tell people I'm vanishing, I'm going away. It's why there was no a Coco last week. I literally for the few days before I finish up my pre-coverage, and then starting that Thursday, I am just if you're not standing down there outside of the theater, you don't exist to me anymore. Not until the Friday morning when I wake up from the post party, the closing night party, and go, okay, there is a real world again.
Yep. If you notice, I didn't even bother you last week because I knew exactly what you were doing.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I saw a lot of great stuff. And we'll talk about more of these maybe next week.
Yeah,
But
no, I'd love to get your opinion.
We have stretched this. This is about the time we're actually past the time where we would ask questions, and we haven't even gotten to the top five brought to
You by
Spit.
Spill. God damn it. Okay, let's see. It's not. You know what? It's a good week that to talk about Fantastic Fest in such a long length of time because there's nothing really good going on with the top five this week. Nothing really
Well,
surprising.
except
Nothing
that I
special.
haven't, the good spillios out there haven't heard my opinions on most of these films.
That is right. You weren't here last week, and I've been wanting to get your opinion on some of these films too, at least a couple. So
Well,
why
let's
don't
get
we
to
start
number
out
five.
with number five, which this is a movie we did get your opinion on. Easy A, the one that is.
Didn't because I haven't seen it yet.
Did I not get your opinion on this?
Nope, I have not seen it yet. I keep wanting to, and I'll probably, since it's a nice slow week and I'm recovering, I may go and check this out because it's still playing at the Draft House.
Okay, okay. I talked about it with.
Yes, I'll see it, but
Okay, yeah, it was that other Carlisle I was talking to about. All right, well, Easy A. This is another film that's ever pushing Emma Stone into big time stardom, and this was a very low budget film. It was an $8 million movie. It brought in $7 million this weekend alone after being out for what 3 weeks, and its gross is up to $42.4 million. How they got away with making this movie for 8 million, I don't know, but because it has people in there like Stanley Tucci and some upcoming pop star with a nice rack. So yeah, I don't know how they got away with making it so cheap, but hey,
Justin
good for
Bieber.
that film. What?
I said,
Oh, no, he's a little bit too small for me in the chest. But this movie it's a good film. It's a good film. I know in the review that we did, a lot of people I brought up a lot of complaints because everybody was just praising the film so much. But I did really enjoy the film. I'm actually happy to see that it's doing so well. So good for that movie.
number four.
Number four is The Town. This is the critically praised. So I guess it's the second Ben Affleck directed feature-length film, and this weekend it brought in, let me see here, $10 million straight up, bringing its gross up to $64.3 million. That movie cost $37 million to make. So not only is it a critical success, but it is a financial success, and a lot of people are saying that this is one of the films to look for when it comes to the Oscar season this year.
Yep,
Or
and
in March, whenever it comes up.
Yep, this one's been well covered by both of us. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really good movie. Ben Affleck is awesome.
Ben Affleck is an amazing director. If he can make another film, I usually give directors a little more than two films before I say that they are one of my favorite directors. But if he makes a third film, which I hear Warner Brothers, I believe, is giving him another crime drama or a thriller to direct, if he knocks it out of the park with that one, he will be up there with some of my favorite directors. Whoever would have thought that Daredevil would have directed some really kick-ass films, man?
Whoever would have thought that Daredevil would have been offered the chance to direct Superman?
Yep, but he turned that down.
Yeah, well, wisely. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a really smart move on his part. But the point is, they considered him, and he was the one that turned it down.
Yeah, no, I
Whoever
know.
would have thought that 10 years ago, if someone would have said, dude, they're going to offer Ben Affleck the chance to direct Superman, and he's going to say no, we would have laughed.
Well, if somebody would have said Ben Affleck is directing, not even a good or bad film, somebody would just say, "Hey, Ben Affleck's going to direct a film," would have been like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Nah, not that guy. But and hey, look, if you would have told me like, okay, not only is he going to be a director, but he's going to be a director of two really amazing films, I would have just slapped the shit out of you and walked off right there. But look at this. I'm glad, man. I'm so happy to see this.
So we don't have to deal with Superman with a Boston accent.
Oh God, I hope not. But hey, who knows? You know, another director who is considered for that is a guy whose film did not debut so well this week. But we'll get